All right, everybody, welcome to Canine's Talking Sense. This episode, I get to be in Orlando, and I wanted to talk about canine supervision. It's a subject that doesn't get a lot of attention, so I want to take a time because I have a friend of mine. We've known each other for 20 plus years, and he's now chief of police here in Orlando, and I'll introduce Eric Smith. Chief Smith, thank you for coming on and doing the episode with us.
Of course, happy to be here.
So, as we both know, supervision is a tough part in the canine world, but I want to kind of go back before you got to this position. Your career, give us a little background of how, like, when you started and your pathway to get to where you're at now.
So I went to college here at University of Central Florida. I interned with the HSI, which was ICE back then, which was Customs back then. Mm-hmm. I interned with them. They introduced me to the chief. Got hired very quickly. So as soon as I walked off the stage, graduating UCF. Within 2 weeks, I was in the academy, being sponsored by the Orlando Police Department. It started there. I started out my work in our Paramore division, which is basically a pretty rough neighborhood that's right around the police station. A lot of drugs, a lot of violent crime. I did 8 months there. Then I went to the drug unit, had a blast there. I realized to be a good cop, you had to be very proactive. Mm-hmm. I was very proactive, making 3 or 4 felony arrests a day. Within 8 months, I found myself in the drug unit. And I did probably 5 years there, and then the drug unit had a canine. They had one canine, they were going to add a second canine. So they had a uniform drug division, then they had an undercover drug division. And they had one canine that covered everything, they wanted to add a canine. Mm-hmm. So I took that canine position, and it was a single-purpose dog. It was a lab. I got a lab that was already trained. It was easy, one of the best dogs around, Buster. He was pretty much autopilot. It was an amazing job, and then I rotated to regular canine. So I went to regular canine, full-service dog, got there, and all I did was a school. I went to canine school. I got promoted out of canine school. So the chief at the time, she picked me, promoted me to sergeant, but she made me finish the school, which was great for me. She goes, "You'll need this. You need to finish the school. You're going to need this." I did a year in patrol as a patrol sergeant. She came knocking on my door exactly at a year and said, "You are now the canine sergeant." That was a hard position to be in just because the unit was very senior. Everybody had a lot more time on than me. I maybe had 11 years on the department. I was young. They didn't really look at me as somebody who really knew what they were doing. But
and if I remember right, they didn't have a sergeant, like a dedicated canine sergeant at that time, or did they? Because I remember the senior guys at that time, they were just, like you said, guys had been there over a lot of tenure. But there might have been a supervisor, but it didn't seem like it was directly, like it was a canine sergeant always out and around with them. It was a sergeant. It was a sergeant that was a different, them plus somebody else?
No, they had a sergeant, but it was one of those things where you're covering day shift to night shift.
Gotcha.
And when you have a senior sergeant, they started covering a lot of day shift.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things where they started getting on their own at night. It was a very, very senior, long in the tooth unit, and I remember the chief told me it was time to make some changes there. And I was brought in to make the unit basically more consistent with what's going on in our community.
Yeah.
And to make the unit sort of younger, new ideas, fresh ideas, and that's what I did.
Were you the first one that had a dog as a sergeant?
The one before me, he had a dog.
Okay.
He had a dog assigned because I had a choice of taking his dog because he left the unit, and then there were 2 other senior handlers who were leaving the unit also, and they gave me a choice of like 3 dogs.
Got it.
And then they were also like, "You can go get a green dog if you want," and I was like, "I'll take this bomb dog."
Yeah.
And then taking a bomb dog was basically all about the money.
Yeah.
I saw the 3 dogs. I was like, "Oh, that's a Mally Shepherd mix." I was like, "I really haven't seen many of those."
That was the first one that ever got in that unit too.
Yeah. So a scout, he was a little bit older. He was a Mally Shepherd mix. He was like 6 years old, but he was a big dog.
Oh, yeah.
And I sort of liked it because I'm a bigger guy. I was like, oh, I want this big dog. He had a good demeanor. He was pretty much on autopilot. He knew how to do the job. So I took him. And I would say I was in the best moves of being a sergeant. Being a sergeant in a canine unit, you're controlling personalities. You're controlling very alpha people. You probably have anywhere from 8 to 10 people that you control every day. And the dog needs to be your second concern. So it's really good as a sergeant to have a dog on autopilot where the dog knows the job. Yes, you have to train. Yes, you have to keep it up. But you're not training a green dog where every minute of your day is working this dog. Because you have to run a unit. Because I know there's a lot of units that don't have, the sergeant doesn't have a dog. He just concentrates on running the unit.
Supervision,
which is a good thing. But I mean, for us, we're just so busy. It's nice to have a sergeant having a dog. If the guy who's on day shift, 1 or 2 handlers on day shift is tied up, you go handle the call. When you're working at night with the most of your troops are at night, you're out there with them. You're out there running calls, and you're like, oh, there's another call. You guys are working this armed robbery. Oh, there's a business check over here. There's a commercial burglary going over here. I'll go handle this while these guys are all tied up on this call. So it was good, and actually, as a sergeant, I got a number of bites.
I remember that too, because Well, it was funny in that career path as you're describing your first drug dog. That's how we met, was you came to class and I did your drug school with you with that dog. And then later on, you got Scout, like you said, which was the first dog I had provided that was the breaking the mold for the city that was not a German Shepherd, that had always been a GSD. So you had got that dog. So it was just kind of cool, knowing in your path that we just ended up crossing paths because of the dog aspect. And now let me ask you this question on this too, that I think about it. In that time frame, obviously the patrol dog's more fun, but what did you take away from working a detection dog and then working a dual purpose dog?
The detection dog, I'll say it's fun because I had the drug dog, which is dedicated drugs, and then my dual purpose dog was a bomb dog.
Yep.
I think you learn how to detail.
Yeah.
You have an eye for detail. You're looking at every inch of a room, anything that drugs could possibly be in, anywhere drugs could possibly be. You're doing hotel rooms, you're doing cars. You're very, very detailed. And that's your focus is, finding whatever you're looking for. And I think it's watching the dog's nose, learning to read the dog.
Yep.
I think that's where you really get how to read your dog. It helped me a lot when it went to a full service dog. Yep. Because in full service, especially when you're looking for people, a lot of times it's hard to tell if the dog's actually working, the dog's chasing an animal, the dog's doing all these little things you're not sure of. Is he just messing around with you? It takes a while to get that. But if you've already worked a single-purpose dog, you know when your dog's working.
Yep.
It was easy to see in the dog, okay, he's definitely working. He's on what we're looking for. He's on a person. We started at the car. Now we're going through the woods. Okay, we're definitely on something. It's easy to see the change and to read a change when you're like, okay, he's messing around. He's screwing me. He's going around these trees. You see it. You can see when the dog's actually not working or if the dog catches some other scent. Like I've come across, deer. I've come across, we had an alligator sitting on a lake thing. It's just, you come across these other things and the dog started showing different responses, but you can tell he was into something. He just didn't know what it was. It definitely wasn't a person. And I think you get that fine-tuned, aspect of reading your dog and knowing what your dog's actually doing. You get that from being a single-purpose dog and the fine detail of working either a single-purpose drug or a bomb dog.
And that's a huge point because the great debate always is on the dual purpose side of things, what do we start with? Should we start with patrol work or should we start with detection work? I've seen both work successfully. Your point is the one that I bring up a lot of times. If you start with detection, you actually get to learn more as a handler. The patrol side, though, the equation comes into play as well. If I start with the patrol side, I can make sure this dog can make it as a dual-purpose dog and flesh out any issues before, unless I did all my detection first, and then I get halfway through patrol school and I'm like, this dog isn't going to make it anymore. But to me, that comes into the selection part. The selection part may not have been there if you question it that much. But I also understand dogs are dogs, and sometimes weird stuff happens later on. So it's always a tough question is what to do. I prefer experience like you had, which is detection, because it gets them in a less high-risk situation to learn the good skills of reading your dog, which are going to make you more successful on that high-risk side later on when everybody's trusting you to work it out, read your dog, what's going on, or are you on a wild goose chase chasing possums in the wood kind of thing. So as you progressed, like you said, you got your dual-purpose dog, you did your time as a sergeant. How's your career continue from there?
So after that, I left there and I went to a drug task force. The drug task force, Metropolitan Bureau of Investigation, they had dogs. So we have the airport, the Orlando International Airport. So they had a dog unit there. So being a narcotics commander there, I was a lieutenant over our narcotics commander, over the narcotics unit there. That included an airport section of canines. Some were Orange County Sheriff's Office, some were ours, some were other agencies. And so I would go out there a lot because of what I knew. So I spent a lot of time with them. We go out there, we do luggage, they do interdiction stops on people. So spending time with them, but also that unit would also come downtown and help us if we did a search warrant in an apartment. They'd come in there and help us search things and go through things. So I've always stayed tight with the dogs and the canine world. So I left that job. I became a captain at the airport. So I continued with it because the airport, of course, has dogs. I continued looking and watching over things there. I became a deputy chief over our special services division, which has canine. It's over canine, so that was a good thing. I was always out with the dogs, always out with canines. I've always been hands-on on who goes to canine, hands-on on what commanders go to canine. I've always found that having a lieutenant over a canine unit, or a captain, whatever you do have, is very nice to have them with dog experience. Even in our agency, it's been train wrecks from people who have no dog experience try and run a dog unit because, number one, they treat it just like every other unit, which you can't do. they try and cut corners like you would do with any other unit. Oh, let's get this cheaper thing. Let's get this cheaper dog food. Let's get these. Oh, I found a cheaper bite suit over here. Stop.
Yeah.
Just stop.
Yep.
You know, I understand you're trying to save $1 and help your budget, but you're ruining a unit and putting people at risk. That's just not what we do. You know, and you know, being cheap when it comes to even vet bills. Well, I found this cheaper. Stop. Just, I understand what you're trying to do, but it doesn't work. So I always like to have somebody who has canine experience spend time in my unit, like the lieutenant there now has spent time. He was a sergeant in canine, an officer in canine, so he spent time there, and it helps me out because he knows what to bring me. He knows to bring me because with a unit with about 32 dogs, we wash out a lot of dogs.
Yeah.
And you know, even at the end, we'll wash out a dog. I'm not scared to wash out a dog. I know it costs us money, but in the end, I want to give the handler the best chance they have to be successful. And you also got to look at the handlers. Okay, you're on your third dog. Maybe it's the handler. And having somebody with that experience at the lieutenant or captain level is very helpful to me because when I go look, they're like, hey, I want to show you something. I'll still go out there and they'll be like, hey, show me this dog work. Show me your issues. I'll still go out there and take a look. You know, but it's nice to have a lieutenant saying, here's all the problems I have. And it's got to the point now where I'm very comfortable with the lieutenant and I'll just say, yeah, show me what you got. And he's like, hey, I got all these notes from our trainer. I agree with this. I went out there and saw it for myself. This dog's not working or this handler's not working. This handler does not have the personality. Or this dog is not fit for what we're trying to do here. Okay, go get another one. I understand. See if you can switch it out with a warranty. If you can't, okay, I'll eat it. Let's just keep moving forward.
And it's a really important point you bring up there because as I've traveled and worked with tons of agencies, the fact what you just brought up is what I would call that in your guys' world here, probably your second line admin, your lieutenant, is out there almost every night with the guys. Out there, as we've been doing the seminar here, training, watching, observing, asking questions, and I knew him back when he was a handler too. And because of his knowledge and his, of course, love and passion for the dog program, he comes at it with a perspective similar to yours, which is we got to do what works. Because otherwise, if we try to cut corners anywhere else, we're going to pay the man later on anyway. And in some cases, pay even more because we wasted even more time, more resources, only to end back up at that, like you said, either the more expensive option or the time that need to be invested didn't get invested. Now we're reinvesting it anyway, and we're further behind. So it was good to see that kind of supervision out there, because a lot of places I go to the point that you made, supervision isn't with canine experience. They're over it, but they don't get it. Either someone don't like it, they're just stuck there, whatever it is. And because of that disconnect, the lack of understanding just sometimes makes those units spin their wheels for much longer than they need to until somebody either supervisor comes in who never was canine but always wanted canine but promoted up fast enough and was like, well, now at least I'm in there. I love it. I want to learn it. I'll be around these guys and live vicariously in that sense. Like, damn it, I wish I was a handler, but I supervise it now, so I'm into it. And that helps units become successful because it's a very hard to understand kind of program because it's dogs, it's animals, and there's a whole different thing. It's not people. And there's all these ancillary things that go off of dogs, like you said, the vet bills, personality of the dog and the handler. And though we got a great dog, that team didn't match up well. And the most important part, like you bring up, which I totally agree with, is we have to look at handlers. Just because someone gets in there, they may have that black and white mentality, so they're great at doing like the traffic homicide investigations, and they're the guy that can do the measurements great. But in the dog world, there's a lot of gray area. Today it's this, tomorrow is that. How have you seen that be something that's an important thing to understand?
I think that's very important to understand, but also I think personality. Some people will watch them, they come in for the testing, they basically just walk around with a dog. Okay, you're not scared of a dog. That's pretty much all we're doing in the initial testing phase. Once you get into school, what I'm seeing a lot of times is people don't have the personality either. They're not the person that get up excited with the dog, and when we got to win, and we got a good bite. Here, let me get the dog all excited. Let me get him, fired up. There's like, hey dog, how you doing, dog? Come here, dog. And it's just like, bro, you gotta motivate yourself. You gotta get happy. You gotta get excited, and or scold the dog. You gotta have the range of emotions. And what you see is, well, this guy's a great cop. He's an incredible drug cop. He can write warrants all day long, put people in jail all day long, but he can't do it. And I will say, to be a dog handler, it's got to be in you. And a lot of people, if you got kids, I always try to relate to people. If you got kids, that's how you do with kids. I mean, your kid got an A. You get excited for your kid. Your kid scored a goal. You get excited for your kid. Your kid messed up. You get all over your kid. Some people just don't. They're just on an even line. They're just even keeled. Their expressions never change. Their emotions never change. And for a young dog, which a lot of people get, okay, it's not going to work. Now, I've learned with older dogs, like my dog, because he was older, bro, I just need you to tell me who to bite.
Yeah,
I need to tell me what we're doing. We're tracking somebody, let's go track somebody.
yeah.
We're sniffing for bombs, okay, we're good. I'll get my reward when this is over, that's good. I don't need much from you. And you see it, as dogs mature, they need less. But in their beginning stages, they need a lot.
Yep.
They need a reinforcement emotion. They're looking back, Dad, is this right? Dad, did I bite this guy? Is this what I'm supposed to bite? What are we doing, Dad? This is fun. You know, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And if you don't give that to a dog, you're failing a dog. And I've seen a lot of dogs ruined, because you know this as well as I do. A dog will come to your agency, and he's a rock star.
Yeah.
He's amazing. The first 2 weeks, he's amazing. And then his handler takes him home, and you're like, what the hell happened to this dog? I'm like, this dog is a train wreck.
Yeah.
This dog just wants to sit on the couch and eat bonbons. What did you do to this dog? And a handler can definitely ruin a dog very, very quickly.
Yep.
And some dogs can make it back with a new handler or with new training, or some dogs never make it back. And they're like, okay, you cost me $12,000. Okay, back to the drawing board.
Yep. So what kind of in that, so you hit some of the qualities. So when looking for the ideal candidate, to include work performance, some of that intangible things like you talked about, and home life. Describe what you think is a very important aspect in selection of handlers.
So I think it all starts with a proactive officer. You can't start with an officer who's not proactive, because you're not going to get any of the things you want done. You're going to have somebody who's fired up to go to calls, who wants to get out there and work a dog, who's going to work the call long enough. You're going to get somebody, if you don't get a proactive officer who's, you know, lack of a better term, is aggressive out there, he's going to walk for about 2 minutes in the woods and be like, okay, I'm over this. Let's go. And the dog's going to be still working, but he's going to pull the dog right back and take it back to the car. And you're ruining the dog, and you're not getting the right person. I also think you've got to really have that upbeat personality. You've got to have a home life which is perfect for the dog. I mean, you do have to have the house, the fenced-in yard. I mean, take it from somebody our department's been sued multiple times. Okay, we used to not have where you had to have a fence. You know, we used to have people living in apartments, and some of those lawsuits are still pending.
Yeah.
It's just, and there were mistakes. And now we write in our policy, you have to have a fenced-in yard. You know, you have to have a house. You know, it has to be your house, you know, because we've been sued on that one before, where somebody's a renter and they just, you know, they do something to the house, and next thing we're getting sued on top of it. I'm like, well, I didn't think of that one. Okay. You know, and there's one of those things where you got to have a certain kind of fence. We had a person who had a fence where you can stick your fingers through, you know, the slats, and the person stuck his fingers through, and, you know, and he bit a little kid who stuck his fingers into his thing, and I'm like, okay, that lawsuit's still pending. So there's little things you got to put in. You want to specify, you know, the kind of fence, got to have a house for them, and what we also do is sergeant does inspections.
Okay.
Because the sergeant goes out and says, okay, you want to be in a canine unit, we're getting ready to select you, we're going to narrow it down to these three. They go there and they do what's called a home inspection. They go out there and see it, and they also talk to whoever you live with. You know, because if you bring the dog in and the wife's like, I don't want a dog in this house, well, that's a problem. You know, or the kids are like, I'm 100% scared of dogs. Okay, well, that's a problem too. We need to figure that piece out. That can be worked around. But by doing that home visit, you actually get a lot out of it and see how the person is. And a lot of it is, and a lot of people don't do this, but you did talk to the supervisors the person's had before. So if you talk to the supervisor person had before, hey, we're looking at this person for canine. What do you think of that? And the people, oh no, this person's very proactive. I've seen him do this. I've done that. He's a good officer. He listens well. Then the big thing is taking instructions well. As we both know, the instructor or the trainer is going to be all over that person from A to Z. Is this officer going to take that, or the officer going to be argumentative and push back a little bit? And if that happens, it's not going to work, because they're going to spend all the time. The trainer and the handler are just going to clash the whole time. The dog's going to be confused about, what are we doing here? All I see is these two people arguing all the time. You know, you need somebody who can just take it, who can be trained. You know, almost like an athlete mentality. Coach says, go right. Okay, we're going to go right on this play. So those kind of things I think are very, very important and have to be done. And a lot of it's from our trial and error. I mean, okay, we got sued on this. Okay, let's fix this. You know, and the last one was, we had an officer living in an apartment. We had a kid coming home from school. I mean, that costs money. You know, for no reason. You know, I'm like, why would you have your dog off lead in an apartment complex right next to a bus stop where a bunch of people are walking by? Because people just don't think about that. They think, this dog's awesome. I throw the ball with this dog, he'll come back all the time. No, he sees a kid who runs from him, dressed up in his little football outfit, getting off the bus coming home. What does that look like? It looks like a bite suit.
Heck yeah.
And these people don't, sometimes new handlers don't think about those little intangibles, you know, and that's exactly what the kid looked like. You know, when I got there, I'm like, okay, the kid's carrying his football helmet, but he's wearing his full shoulder pads, wearing his pants. Yeah, he looks like a bite suit. The kid's 14 years old. He's big, like one of our decoys. Okay, I see it. And the kid started jogging. You know, and the dog's like, oh, I forget your little ball. I see what I want, and I'm gonna go eat this. You know, and I'll get my reward that way. So it's those little things, and new handlers just don't know. You know, they don't really understand how it is.
There's a critical thing you said there, which was the ability, the way I look at it, the ability to take constructive criticism and to absorb it take accountability for it as needed, and to not look to always make excuses because of this, the point the finger at the dog, or the trainer was confusing, or I talked to this trainer today and he told me to do it this way, then I'm training with you today, the other trainer, and now you're telling me to do the opposite part of it, versus going, hey, I don't know anything about anything right now. I just got to absorb the information, and if I'm confused, ask questions in a way that's constructive, not so defensive. And because once we laid the pathway there where the person is moldable, the success with the dog and the handler is going to shoot way up. But if they're feel like they're constantly, because we all know this, at the end of the day, it comes down to ego. And we're in a, alpha ego type personality industry, so sometimes it's hard to take that criticism when you're working with something you can't really understand or control. And then to be super flexible, like Gumby, to be able to go, I'm going to do this way, and then this way. And if that is hard for you to do, that's probably not the best pick. Because so many things I look at, again, from being able to see it from a perspective now, is the ones that are more rigid or have that harder time accepting being called out for errors will struggle. And as I've learned, as I get to the next phase of this, is as a trainer supervisor of it, you also have to come at them in a way that they understand better, in the sense of, and I took this from being with the SEAL teams and instructing over there, which was the way they approach stuff. I would hear on the radio, we'd have these exercises, and I'd hear the instructors losing their minds on the radio of like how the performance was going. So I'm expecting this huge reaming session once we got done with the exercise. And it was totally unexpected. Every instructor supervisor went down each platoon. All right, platoon commander, give me your highs and your lows. 2 highs, 2 lows, give it to me. And why they did that was they knew the guys were going to beat themselves up. So what they're looking for is, were they going to take accountability for what they did wrong? And if they did, like the guy told me, he goes, it's already on my notepad. If he takes accountability for it, I don't need to go beat him up anymore. He's already beating himself up. I just need to know that he knows what it is. Now my next question is, how do you plan on fixing it? What things are you going to go through? And this is what I've been doing with your handlers recently in this seminar is, give me your highs and lows. What do you want to work on? And then you actually have to draw out of them what they did good, because they're so wrapped up about what they did wrong that they're missing on the good things. So then as the instructor or the evaluator or the trainer, whoever you are, you can actually say, hey, you did this right, but you're right. Those are the things we've got to clean up, and let's work on getting that done. And then that kind of takes away the edge that person's already sensitive about, because they know it's screwed up. And in some cases, if they didn't know, if they didn't call it out, it's probably because they didn't even realize they made that mistake. So you can talk to them about it, and it's not as a confrontational thing, and you see the growth happen a lot faster. So within that, as we move from handler, what do you look at in your position to look for that level 1 supervisor, sergeant, and then level 2 supervisor, lieutenant? What things are you looking at to have somebody who runs or supervises a canine unit?
So 100% is somebody who was in canine. If I can do it, and one of my sergeants was in canine, one of my sergeants was never in canine. So that was because I don't have a lot of people, and this is amazing in a 1,000-man agency. People go to canine and they don't leave.
Yeah.
They don't leave unless something happens. A lot of people retire out of canine because canine is one of those units that it's just, it took me however long to get here. I love this job. I'm working with my best friend every day. This is where I want to be. So you don't get a lot of people who promote up with the canine background. I'm unusual, and it's funny. I mean, I probably would have stayed in canine, but I took the test. Just to take tests like all of us young officers do. We're told to take tests, and I was like, oh, well, you're promoting me. That sort of sucks. I was like, I was torn. Because, I mean, when the chief called me, he's like, well, you're getting promoted. Do you want to stay in canine, or do you want to go get promoted? And that's a serious question, because a lot of people are like, I love canine. So I try and find somebody who's experienced when they're available, as long as they're a productive, strong sergeant, which a lot of canine handlers are, because if they go to the sergeant route, they usually are very good handlers. They're similar to, a CID detective or a SWAT operator. They're like, they're very good sergeants, because they're just driven to succeed, which is what we want. So I try and find somebody who's got the experience, and I want to also know that they want to be there. And I want to also, the one thing I really stress to them, you are there to lead. You are there to lead. You have a dog, but your dog is secondary. You are there when everything fails and we're searching a lot of areas, or there's another call that goes out, and that's what I expect you to do. Other than that, if it's just one call, you're working one call, I expect you to run with your handlers and critique your handlers and know what your handlers are capable of. I mean, one thing I always remember, and it always strikes me weird, me and one of the handlers are in, me and a handler, the other handler's working his dog. I'm his cover officer. There's another canine handler with us as a cover officer. So we're running with the guy. We're looking for an armed robber. We're deep in the woods. And we find the guy. He's under a tree. I'm like, okay, this will be a dog bite, whatever. We're good to go. Because the guy's not listening to us, not even paying attention to us. He's just ignoring us, trying to get in a position to run again. And I'm like, okay, this will be a dog bite. I'll never forget, the handler gave me his dog. He goes, hold this. He gave me his lead. And I'm like, and it just shocked me. I was like, maybe there's something wrong. So I hold the dog, and I'm looking. He goes up there and just starts grabbing the guy. And I'm like, and the guy resists, so he's like, and he starts wearing the guy out. I'm like, what am I looking at? And I was like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I go to the other guy, like, get in there. And so I get in there, and they get the guy handcuffed. I'm like, what the H are you doing, bro?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I just figured it was in sort of a hard position. I didn't know if the dog could get to him, so I just decided to go hands on. Okay, he's under half a tree. The dog will pull him out.
Yeah.
Your dog is capable of doing all these kind of things. It's not, if you're in deep water or something, yeah, okay, I'm not here to drown dogs.
Correct,
But, I'm like, this is your dog. This is your tool. You can control it. And the guy's bigger than me. He's a huge, muscular guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you can pretty much control anything that happens. And if you need to help your dog, you will help your dog. And that's what we do. But we're not here to, this is why we have dogs.
Yeah.
Let him engage and do what he's supposed to do.
Yes.
And it's pain for me. The dog doesn't know me. I'm like waiting for this dog to turn around and be like, bro, you're not my handler. And take a chunk out of me. And I'll be like, great. So it's just weird how people get under stress. And it's one of those kind of things, as a supervisor, you have to run your handlers because you didn't know if they're doing those kind of things. And if they need to go back to training like him, I was like, no, bro, you're pulled.
Yeah.
Go back to the trainers. We're pulling you for a while, see if you can master this thing because that's not what your job is. Your job is to let the dog do his job to apprehend this guy. And one of the things I always see, and it sort of makes me laugh, is handlers tend to overprotect their dogs. And they're like, this is my friend. And I'm like, and I always say this, if somebody's shooting at you or shooting at officers, and that's your only option, let go of the lead and let the dog engage. And then we'll get a good shot. And if the dog gets hit, I will go get you another dog. This is a tool. 100% a tool. So that's the one thing I stress to the supervisors. This is a tool. Make sure every handler who works for you will know it's a tool. If they have to send that dog, we will send that dog. And if that dog gets shot or killed, I will get you another dog. But to protect human life, our life, the life of the community, you will send that dog. There was never a hesitation to send that dog. So I make sure the sergeants know it. At the next level up, lieutenants, I try and get a lieutenant who also has experience. That sometimes is good, sometimes is not. Before I got the lieutenant I currently have who has experience, there was been 2 lieutenants there who did have experience. One I had to get rid of because he didn't like. He actually told them, "Hey, I don't want you biting a lot of people because it brings attention to me." And I was like, I noticed, I was like, man, the bites have gone way down. Even for real guys, they're taking down. I mean, they're taking down robbers, took down a murder, and I'm like, how are there no bites? So I do what I do. I ride the street. I see my cops. I'm like, I go, when's the next canine meeting? They're like, oh, we're doing a training day that Wednesday. All right, I go out and see them, and I close the door. What's going on with you guys? They're looking at me like, you really want to know? I'm like, yeah, what's going on? We were told not to bite people. Lieutenant was gone the next day. Brought in a different lieutenant. I gave the order that, we're not here to, to illegally bite people, do things that are crazy, but if it's a felony, and they resist, you will engage. You will engage, and that's your job. And it was like I lifted a weight off of them. I'm like, so you have to know the person you're putting there, and not more than a conversation. You got to know what they're like. You got to know what their past is like. Are they somebody who's like, oh my gosh, I got to get promoted? You guys can mess up my promotion because we all know Canine's one of the most high liability fields there is. There's a lot of liability goes in there. You bite the wrong person, you bite somebody dirty, as I always say it, or do the wrong thing. Yeah, you can cost the department a lot. You can cost people their jobs. But it is what we're here to do. We're here to apprehend bad guys and save lives. And that's what the job of Canine is. So you got to find a lieutenant who, again, is almost like the officers, proactive, believes in a mission, wants to catch bad guys, and will help our people to get them everything they need to catch bad guys. So that's what I learned from that point is getting a lieutenant. If I can find experience, it isn't, but I've also found that lieutenants who come from the drug world, lieutenants who come from TAC, lieutenants who come from SWAT are about catching bad guys. And those are ones you put there, putting somebody who just, who wants to go there? This lieutenant over here said he'll go there because the hours are usually nice and he can pick and choose what nights he wants to work. That's why I have my canine lieutenants now. They will pretty much work at night, even though they have other responsibilities, of course, like most agencies would. He's got, he's got the reserve program. He's got every major event that happens in the city of Orlando, which is, hey, we've got a professional basketball team. We've got the stadium with the bowl games. We've got major concerts here. We've got the art center. So we got a lot of things going on. a lot of protests, a lot of marches, which he's responsible for all those kind of things. But also, you're going to work at night, and you're not going to get paid for any of it because lieutenant is, there ain't no overtime as lieutenant. This is for you to work to the next level and, help the department.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the biggest things that I look for in those two positions.
This episode of Canines Talking Sense is brought to you by dogbase.co, the all-in-one platform for working dog professionals, from training logs to certifications, deployments, medical, overall performance tracking. Dogbase keeps everything organized and accessible in one place. No more notebooks or scattered spreadsheets, whether you're running detection dogs, patrol dogs, search and rescue, nose work, scent work, whatever it is, Dogbase has a package that fits your program. And it's completely customizable and it grows with you. Go check out dogbase.co today and streamline your training program. We personally use this here at Ford Canine. It is a wonderful application, great for logging everything you could ever want, especially when it comes to detection work. So those of you in nose work and scent work, go check it out.
Yeah, and there's a lot of points. It was kind of funny when you were talking about when I first met this unit as a young 20-something-year-old, even younger than that, I think at times, the only way to get in this unit was someone had to die or retire. There was no getting in. And then it progressed. And you're right, because the people that get into these positions, they love it. There's some that don't love it the same way, but, obviously we have our good friend Hank, and he was one of the ones that I looked at, I know you had to look at too, that would have been an amazing supervisor, not even just canine, but just in general as a cop. And he wasn't going to leave working dogs. That's what he loved to do. And and I got to watch how this agency still made sure that even though he wasn't wearing stripes or bars or whatever, that wisdom and experience and that devotion and passion was put in the right position to still lead the program. And I think because of not only his success as a personality, like how he can communicate, how he's fair, but also calls out shit when he needs to call out shit, that the teams all respected that. Even the supervisors, who, like you said, have to sometimes come in and they have the least amount of experience. But the experience of that well-seasoned officer in the canine program, the right one, can help those supervisors out quite a bit. And that's kind of, if you come into it as a supervisor and you have that right kind of person, you can lean on them, and it's not taking away your bars or your stripes. It's putting that to actually make the whole program better, which then reflects back on that supervisor. And that's just fostering those right types of senior handlers, because there's both sides. The other side of that is you have your senior handlers who don't want to do shit, who are more going to be like, I'm here because I want to get, I like dogs, it's a good position. Depending on the agencies, Florida's a little bit different, but a lot of agencies, the only way you get a take-home car is if you actually are in a canine position. Yeah. So some of them get these extra perks that are good because of that aspect, but they don't want to leave it because of those perks. So as people listen and watch this, it's a mixture of things. It starts with that beginning level of good handlers, fostering that mentality, but also like we're talking about today is, there's a handler within the unit that's going to get promoted, and it's tough to watch some of the really good ones promote. But in some cases, there's another opportunity later on to come back into the program, just like you did. You came back in as a sergeant, so. That, to me, is some of the bigger keys of success to keep it going versus how do you feel about because this is a common thing around the United States where the agencies say, hey, you work one dog and you're done. Because though the goal is to share the ability to move around and get into specialized units, what do you see as what comes as a cost to that kind of thinking? That kind of thinking,
I think that's... I don't know how you would do that. Yeah. It's hard to do because I can see the handler working in a certain way to protect themselves, not let the dog get hurt, because this dog got hurt. They're not going to give me another dog. This is bad. I mean, I can't even see that because most of my handlers have been through, 2-3 dogs that have been in unit for a while. There's some things you can't even control. With the dog. Your dog comes up with some sort of disease in year number 2. Okay, does that mean I'm out? Yeah. And then they're apprehensive about everything. I just don't know why you would do that, because also the bigger thing you're losing is experience.
Bingo.
So the handler's experience makes them irreplaceable in a lot of instances, because they know how to handle every kind of call. That's the one thing I liked about being a canine sergeant for 5 years was I saw it all.
Yeah.
I saw officers die. I worked those kind of calls, and it's just like, you need to know how to do everything, you know, from a wooded environment to somebody who runs into a hotel room to somebody who's shooting at us. You need all that experience, and that kind of experience you can't replace. Okay, now I'm going to go out here. Okay, you work for 3 years or 4 years, you work one dog. Okay, you're out. Now the next guy's up. Okay, they're green just like the dog is, and they're both starting over, and that all kind of experience is just, to me, it's hard and dangerous. I don't know how you would do that, especially a unit as big as mine.
Yeah.
Where we're just like, as long as you're happy, you're producing, and you're learning, that's very important. And your job is to keep officers safe.
Yeah.
To protect our department, protect our community. And you do such a better job with that experience. You know, like I said before, you know when your dog's working. You know if we're on the right track. Or you know, hey, we're gonna get this bad guy off the street. Okay, he's a murderer. Let's get this murderer off the street. Okay, a green handler and a green dog go out there, and they're like, well, we missed him. Okay, now he's back out there doing whatever he was doing again and putting our community at risk again. Or you have that handler who may be on his second dog, his or her second dog, and they're out there making a difference, catching that bad guy, getting that bad guy off the street, you know, and knowing those things. I mean, it's just, to me, I don't know how you would do that. It'd
And
be
you
hard
know
to explain.
firsthand how much gets invested in the knowledge of that individual.
Yeah.
And to yank it away 5 years later because they finished the time, I see agencies just get stuck in this loop of they're constantly new because every 5 years they start over again. You know, they have, and I get it, they're smaller agencies, so there's only 2 or 3 dog handlers. But your max experience is 5 years. And we both know that's when you start getting going. You just start getting good then.
And I guess they're trying to give people a chance to be like, okay, he was there 5 years, we've got 30 cops.
Yeah.
So let's give other people a chance. I see it a little bit, but I see way too many negatives.
Yes.
You know, I see way too many negatives. And hopefully if you're at a small agency, you're giving your handler, if you're not producing the calls for him or her, you're giving them the freedom to be like, oh, the city next to us has 22 cops and they're into something. Can we go help them? Or, you know, or state trooper stopped over here. Can we go help this person? Because you want to get them to work. Because the dog needs to work. You know, the dog needs to work, and they need real world work. We can recreate all day long, but real world, I mean, the dog knows you're hyped up for a reason. The dog senses all your reactions like, well, this is different. My handler's like really amped up. There's something different about this. He's actually a little bit nervous and scared. I mean, what's going on with this? So you gotta put the dog in those real life scenarios because they're gonna read off of you, and they're gonna act a little differently because they see you acting differently.
Into another aspect of a bigger agency is as agencies are larger in size, specialized units sometimes get their own dogs. And we were kind of talking about this beforehand. Pros and cons of what happens when a handler kind of has to serve 2 masters kind of thing. Because, and we know this, maybe a supervisor in a specialized unit goes, you know what, I really like a dog here because I hate waiting for a dog when I need it for whatever reason. And however it works out, they get a dog, you know. And then, but we both know this, when that dog comes into that specialized unit and there's no dog knowledge there, when something stops working right, hey, Canine unit, can I send my guy over and can you help them out a little bit? And then now the Canine unit, who has experience, tries to fix something. What do you see? You can give it as pros and cons, but what is that world like to try to manage and oversee, and also how do we make it functionally work better? What are things that we can do?
So I think it gets very messy in big departments when you have dogs loaned out. Most of the dogs that we have out are single purpose. They're almost all drug dogs. There's some bomb dogs at the airport, but it's a bigger unit at the airport, so they pretty much have their own trainer and they have their own sergeant, so he pretty much handles that. It's hard when we get people to our various drug units and our TAC units, and we have even bicycle units have dogs. They're all single-purpose drug dogs. And the issue that we run into is almost twofold. Usually they have a partner, and they have to produce stats. Because everybody knows this. At an agency like ours, you have to produce stats to basically get to where you are. And you're somebody, if you get 0 felonies in a month, they're going to be looking at your cross-eye like, are you even working? What are you doing? You know, so as a team, they're out there trying to get stats. That hurts the dog handler because the partner's usually like, well, what are you doing? I go, well, I got to go back and train with Canine for 4 hours. Bro, we ain't got no stats today. We got to go out there and make something happen. So that's where I see it becomes an issue, even at our agency. It raises its head probably every year or so where I'm like, well, why is this dog failing? And they're like, well, he never trains. Well, why is he never trained? Well, he's got a partner. When then you look back, you're like, well, his whole chain is non-canine. And they're like, man, we just want you to work. The dog should be, because they don't understand dogs. Dogs have to consistently be trained. And chains that don't understand dogs, they just think like, oh, this guy or girl shows up, they put it on the car, they're going to hit.
Yeah,
and they're like,
that's exactly right.
You know, and then when they find another reason to get in the car, and they'll be like, well, there's a pound of meth in this car, and this dog walked a pound of meth. What's going on? And the guy, and if you look at his training log, you're like, this guy ain't trained in like 4 months.
Yep.
You know, what is this dog's a pet, basically.
Yes.
You know, the dog is real.
Or a mascot for the unit.
Yeah, and it's just like, okay, he sits in the office on a blanket, and they all pet him, and they walk out, and then you go put him in a car, and he's like, well, this dog, he doesn't even know what he is. And that becomes messy. So I think one of the things is, I look at it twofold. You can have the canine unit loan it out, and basically they all respond back to canine. The negative to that is you've really got to manipulate and make sure they're working the hours that you want them to work, and that they're available to that unit, because a lot of times people are very, very alpha.
Yeah.
So if you put everybody under a canine lieutenant, they're going to be like, well, you're my asset. Well, the drug unit's like, well, we got an operation at 4 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. We need that dog there. Oh, we'll see. And that's when you start seeing the head butting start and be like, well, it's my asset. No, it's my asset.
Yep.
So it's hard to say the best way. You really got to look at your people, and you got to be hands-on with your people. For me, it's going to be me going down there and saying, okay, they are going to train this amount of hours. I don't want them to have a partner. I want them to basically ride around. But here's the negative to that. If they're just riding around, the TAC unit in a big city like ours, the TAC unit may be on the west side of Orlando, and the unit that you're assigned to is on the west side of Orlando.
Yep.
All right. A unit calls on the north side of Orlando and says, hey, I need a drug dog. Oh, I'll be helpful. Let me go do that.
Yep.
Your unit gets into a situation where they need a dog. That's your home unit.
Yep.
And they're going to be 3 shades of hot at you for not being available for them. So that's why, like, for us, we run multiple dogs in those kind of units to try and always make sure a dog's available. But even with us, we're still having issues. A dog may be on the south side of the city helping out a regular patrol cop or some CID detective. And then they're like, dude, I got a good car. I got a good car up here in the north. I need you here right now because the other dog's off. The other dog's out east helping somebody. So it becomes, it's really hard to just manipulate the whole thing. It's just like pulling strings to make it all work. But I think the biggest thing is to get them away from a partner where they need stats. Free them up a little bit to be more of a safety or linebacker. Let them roam a little bit within constraints.
I was going to say, what's reasonable? I mean, be reasonable about it. And this is where it goes back into, I got to put the right people in the right position who know, like, I know the west side needs a unit, but I'm like my unit's working up north right now. That handler, because like you said, if they're integrated with the canine unit more, they may be able to reach out to another handler. Hey, they're calling for a dog over here. Are you available? Because you know Murphy's Law. I'm going to go to this, and they're probably going to pop something off over here. I want to help out. Are you free? And I because again, looking at it from the outside gives me a different perspective. But when they're separated, the communication drops because they don't know each other, not as comfortable with each other. But when they actually integrate better, even though they're still assigned to other units, that camaraderie that starts happening creates communication. And I think the bigger key that you just hit is once from the top down comes, hey, you guys communicate, but this is how it's going to function. I'm giving you guys some latitude. Make good decisions. If we have some things that fall out from this, either poor decision making, whatever, we'll have another conversation about this. But like you said, when it's so rigid that they're only this thing and this one's only this thing, there's more bigger issues that are at hand, which comes back to what the asset is. It's a dog that needs to be able to do that. And like we were talking about before too, is detection is the highest litigated aspect. And a lot of cases can be won or lost because of the training records or lack of training records or, well, this, and we saw this exactly at the seminar. One unit has the big quantities. The other units don't even have access to that. But because they train together now, we were able to do it. But if they train together more often, it would be easier because this unit can actually get training material that's the quantities that we need exposed dogs to that don't get very often. But if they never see each other or talk to each other other than at a seminar, they know it. Like, again, this one was like, you guys have access to that? Yeah. How do you guys do that? We do it like this. Oh, we could do that too. And then the drug unit, one handler in the unit was like, oh, I could do that. I just didn't know you guys would want that. But it was cool to see that. But like you said, coming down and saying these specialized units have to look at it as, if they're a canine handler, canine first and augment out second. But go ahead.
No, I 100% agree with that. I think it's the most important way to do it. It's just a very complex.
It is.
To get things across.
Yep.
But it's got to come from the top down that, hey, I'm not worried about a handler's stats. I'm worried. What I want to see in the training log is that they're out there helping other units. Now, the one thing we do, and I see it all the time, is what I have done. I have 2 bike units that work in our central area, so they're in the central part of the city. They have dogs, so I try and keep those in central because it's easy to go everywhere in the city. They can break out and go everywhere in the city, But the biggest thing for them is making sure they get the training in.
Yeah.
They get the training in because even they get bogged down, and they don't have partners, but they get bogged down by calls for service. They get bogged down by, hot calls going out. They get bogged down from that, and I'll see them, and I'll be like, hey man, why didn't you go to training? And, I heard you missed your training, and they're like, I've been on a shooting for the last 4 hours on perimeter position. I'm like, well, yeah, I can see that because it's a single-purpose dog. The one thing I also see with those single-purpose dogs is two things. They want to be a full-service dog.
Yeah.
So when the openings come up, they're the first ones to put in. So it's a lot of times, like we have a 3-year rule where you're an investment.
Yes, 100%.
Your investment in the training in you is way more than that dog costs. So we're going to make you sit for a little bit.
For sure.
And if we do have to bend the rules, which we have done a couple times, because there's not a lot of people who want to go to Canine anymore.
Yeah.
There used to be a huge pool, but now people are like, man, that's a lot of responsibility, that's a lot of liability, that's a lot of training.
More
I don't
work
know if
than
I
I
want
thought.
that. Yeah, it's more work than I thought. So sometimes they're the best person available. Like, okay, well, let's go on and do the switch out.
Yep.
You go to full service, and we'll put somebody in your single purpose. That's one of the biggest things I see is trying to keep them engaged and trained. But the other problem I see with those guys are because when they're not close to the canine unit, they're not getting the big training that they need. Once they're out of school, and the school's a lot shorter, is they tend to do things with a dog which tend to ruin a dog.
100%.
The dog goes home, and I'm like, where's your dog? I left him at home. What? Well, we're doing a buy bust over here, so I didn't think I needed a dog. Okay, how often do you do that? Well, we're on a buy bust for the next 2 weeks. So you're going to leave the dog home for 2 weeks. And what happens with the dog is the dog's at home with 3 kids and a wife.
Yep.
The dog's on the couch being fed bonbons and all sorts of crap. And then when you decide to go to work, and you see, it's so easy to see.
Do that.
The dog, you're like, come on. You start getting dressed. What most dogs do, they get excited. I'm ready to go work. We're going to work, Daddy. Let's go to work. When the dog looks at you and like, oh, you're bothering me.
Oh, man.
And
I'm going back to bed.
They go lay on the couch and want to see the wife who's been treating them like a pet.
Yep.
They're like, pet life is good. It's air conditioning in here. She gives me treats. They rub my stomach. This is awesome. That's when you're like, that dog's ruined.
Yep.
You're like, what is going on? I mean, my dog went home, cage. I'm like, okay, it's time for you to eat, time to play a little bit. Now back in the cage.
Yep.
Work is their fun.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of these young handlers, because they go to such a condensed school for single purpose.
That's the tough part. Yep.
They don't know that. They're like, what do you mean? I go, you can't let the dog just play with your kids in the backyard. You can't have the dog just, sitting there on the couch with your wife eating bonbons. This is a tool.
Yeah.
He has a job to do. He should be excited to go to work and get those rewards. When all his rewards come from home in a nice AC, he's like a regular person. He's like, man, I'm gonna sit up here, gain weight, and just be a bum on the couch.
Yep.
And that's better than what you're offering me.
Yep.
And that's where you're like, okay, well, that was $12,000 down the tubes.
Yep.
And I'm like, so why should I keep you? You ruined this dog. And really, they didn't even know they ruined the dog. They didn't know why they ruined the dog or how they ruined the dog.
Yeah, well, you said because they're a first-time handler. And then the other thing that I see, and I got to see here, was the handlers that are in those kind of specialized units on their own trying to figure it out are doing training by themselves.
Yep.
Because they're just trying to maintain their training hours, which they know is important, but they have no one to help them.
Yep.
So they constantly put odor out on their own.
Yep.
And without even knowing it, they've built in all of these tells the dog goes.
Yeah.
So that in itself becomes a legal liability, because then there's nobody in Canine even reviewing records for them to say, oh, wait, number one, let's see how you're training. Why did that, that was literally what happened on day one was like, oh, now I know why this is happening.
Yep.
And the handler would go, yep, you know what? That's actually exactly why it's happening, because there's no one there to tell me. I'm on my own. I'm trying to figure this out as best I can, but I also got to do this, this, and this. So the only time I had to train was this window. And then the lieutenant would look at it and go, we want to help. We're here for you. So that's where I look at it in your position is I also want to make sure I don't have one of the handlers causing me case law for the rest of the state or even the country if it's a Supreme Court case. And unfortunately, Florida is the one that makes constantly dog-related Supreme Court case ruling. So the 100% is, I see, like you said, because of the job that they're doing as an officer, pulls away the dog, so it's easier to leave the dog at home because we both get it. We don't want to leave the dog in the car either.
Yep.
So it's safer at home at least a little bit with the consequences of that. And then, oh crap, we got to do training. I just realized, like you said, I haven't trained in 4 months. Let's throw a couple hides out. And it's putting out hides with no thought or meaningful intention behind it. And that's the bigger part when they train as a group. It is just like your trainer here was saying, one of the things I've learned over the past couple of years is, wow, we are super creative when it comes to bite work and patrol work because it's high liability. We come up with every scenario possible to try to prepare the dogs for. We've sucked at preparing the dogs in detection because we just making it like a checklist. We put odor here, and we're just checking it off. And the cool thing is they're starting to realize now, I have to treat detection like patrol. I have to be creative. I got to think of ways to challenge myself and the dog. And the bigger thing that I was trying to show all of them was, you can't look at, you have to look at this as, if I get all these wins all the time, I'm not training nearly hard enough. And and you know this because you've been SWAT for a lot of years. I'm not training handlers to shoot paper targets. You can be great, you can shoot the Coke bottle all day long, but can you shoot, move, can you do all these other things, can you handle stress? And that's detection when these put hides out, is shooting paper targets. They got to get out there, think creatively, I took their training aids, I'm like, let's get this shit out of the canvas bag. Let's put it out like how someone's going to put it out. Yep. Hey, you got some cellophane wrap? We're going to wrap this up. We're going to do this to it. We're going to put it in this way. And they're all like, I'm not changing your aid. We're not changing your aids as it is. We're turning it into like what's going to look like operationally. And it took just a couple seconds of thought. And once they started thinking that way, then those specialized units who don't even get exposed to those guys who do it more often, they're like, I wouldn't even have thought of that because I'm focused in this lane all the time and I don't get exposure to the dog world as much, and I'm just trying to figure it out. Or some that just go to hop on YouTube and just try to watch some videos or hop onto our website and go, well, I saw Cameron do a video on this, so I'm going to give it a shot. And I can tell them that's great, but you need your dog people who've been doing it a while to collaborate with. And when you collaborate more, and in your shoes, the units themselves get better and better, dogs get better and better, and we have less risk legally, less risk liability-wise, and so forth. And it's a tough thing because, like you said, there's no perfect. But when there's no communication, everything just gets stagnant. And then you have some units that excel, other ones that are just surviving, and then you got supervisors that are like, fucking dogs are annoying. Like, I really, like, Canine guy, all right, you got to go do this. When are you coming back? Okay, I'll cut you loose for 45 minutes, but that's all you get out of it. It's a tough position, and which leads to this other part, certifications, and how does an agency like this? Because I think the bigger thing I see frequently, and it comes more from the non-dog side of it, not understanding it, but when a supervisor sees a piece of paper, they're like, well, you're certified, you're good to go, and they kind of like expect this team to figure it out because there's a piece of paper there that says it. How do you feel, or how do you view when someone goes, oh yeah, we're certified on this? What is your perspective as an administrator on that? So
the certification is nice for lawsuits and liability down the road. I pretty much give all responsibility to my trainer. So I have a full-time trainer. We've had a full-time trainer probably for the last 15 years. Yeah. And he makes all decisions. So the trainer tells me this team is not doing it, I don't care what the paper says. Because we all know we can go to any school, pass it, whatever, you can name any school out there. I'll pass because they want my money, because they want me to come back. They're like, oh, this guy ain't gonna come back. We failed him. Let's work him through and make him, I've been to those schools. Tune it up real quick in the parking lot. Come back over here. And they're like, hey, do that cabinet again. Okay, cool. Oh yeah. Next thing you know, yeah, you passed, man. Go on about your business, because they want to keep that money train coming in, and I understand that. So I give it all 100% to the trainers. They're the ones who know the dogs. They're the ones who are going to be testifying and know the liability of these dogs, and I have zero problem with them pulling a dog. Now. The one thing I haven't seen a dog pulled for not being able to certify. Most of the teams that get pulled is for the dog and handler just aren't getting it. It's bigger issues that they have. And then, of course, pull people for officer safety. And, because some people, like I said, they're too attached to the dog, put themselves in a position with a bad guy where they may get shot. And because, body cams, that's the one thing I'll say about body cams. Body cams tell the whole story. And maybe not the handler's body cams, but the people behind the handler tell the total story of what's going on and how they're doing with the bad guy and how they're approaching the bad guy. Some of these handlers, the way they approach a bad guy is, I'm like, it's your dog, man. Put him out there. I'm not sure why you're trying to put yourself between a bad guy and a dog when the guy may be armed. What are you doing? And a lot of people are just like, they're just so tight with the dog. And that's the one thing that's always irked me is like, this is a tool. Put the tool out there. But it's just one of those kind of things where we just have to understand what the mission is, what the overall mission is, what the job is, what the dog is here to do, and let the dog do what it needs to do. One of the big things, and one of the things I've even learned from just sitting here talking to you is, and I see it at every agency, is we have a lot of dogs loaned out to other units and that are run by other units, and I think what's the best way to deal with that is mandating the time from the top. Mandating the hour time, because you're right, because just like you said, and you said it here, and I took it to heart, because it is true, and I've seen it done a bunch of times. We're doing something in about 45 minutes. You got 45 minutes, go see those guys and get back. That doesn't work.
No.
You have to mandate a certain amount of hours from the top and say, this is what will happen every week, and this is how it's going to work every week. So figure it out. Coordinate with the trainer, who I put all my faith in.
Yep.
You know, that he decides.
They're there for a reason.
Yeah, they're there for a reason. They're the ones I look at and say, hey, I go, and I always ask them this, handler or dog? When they come here and say, we got an issue, handler or dog? And they're like, and sometimes he's an honest guy. Sometimes he's like, to be honest, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do? Well, I want to try this other dog that we got sitting because, you know, a handler transferred out. I got another dog sitting. Can I put this other dog away and put him with this handler? Yeah. You know, and just, you know, just make your decision what you want to do. I'll support you either way.
Yeah.
I have zero problem going to buy another dog.
Yep.
But, you know, like we all do, if the handler's on a second or third dog, we start looking at the handler and be like, hey, is this the handler? You know, if this the handler, say it's the handler and we'll do what we need to do.
Yeah.
And the one thing that it was a little rough when I first got here because people never want to tell people they can't do a job. I'll tell you in a heartbeat, just because I've been in this job and it's what we do here. I mean, it's not everybody's cut out for canine.
Yep.
You know, sometimes it is the handler, sometimes it's the dog, but figure out which one it is. And a lot of times we know the dog came in here because we get the same kind of dog from the same kind of vendor. You know, usually the dog is on point when they come in.
Yeah.
And we can easily change that by how we train a dog. So that's one of the big things we got to watch how the dog is trained. And then sometimes you have to look at a handler. And I think that's where a lot of agencies go wrong. They're just like, I'm like, dude, how's this guy on his fifth dog?
Yeah.
What are you doing over there? I'm like, well, you know, he wasn't working with his first 4 dogs.
Yeah.
You sure he wasn't working with his first 4 dogs? Or it's the handler's time for the handler to go bye-bye? You know, and I'm just like, you know, make those right calls. You know, because I'll be honest, dogs are expensive, and we do go through a lot of them. But, you know, a lot of times people got to look in the mirror and say, hey, this isn't for you. Maybe you should go to drugs. TAC, you know, back to patrol, wherever you need to go. It's just this job isn't for everybody, and people have to understand that.
Yep.
You know, I've seen handlers that are actually scared of dogs. I'm like, how the hell did you get here?
How did you get here?
Yeah,
Exactly.
how did you get here? I mean, the dog looks at them, they start jumping back. I'm like,
or everybody
this
else's
ain't gonna
dogs
work.
makes them do it. Yeah.
I'm like, this ain't gonna work. I'm like, you can go back right now. When I see you jerk away, like, bro, you're supposed to be in charge of this team. This dog, the dog's driving the car.
Yep.
What are you doing here?
Yep.
You know, it's just people have to recognize those kind of things. I see it a lot in small agencies because they're like, man, we told this guy he's canine, so we have to make it work. We have to make this, you know, this round circle fit in a peg, you know, in a square peg. It just it doesn't work.
No,
not everybody's cut out for this, and just accept it and tell the person, hey, this isn't for you.
They're going to be happier at the end anyway,
and less stressed.
Yes,
because you know. We've all heard the stories. People attacked at their home. Just like, you know, I was like, okay, you're a dog. You know, I've seen handlers shoot dogs. And I'm like, how do you shoot your own dog? I'm like, bro, what is going on here? How do we get to the point where you're shooting your own dog?
Exactly.
You know, well, he attacked me. Bro, this should have been handled way back in the day by somebody else because this is just a mess.
Yep.
You know, and it's just we see it too much and happening too much where you got to have the right handler for the right job and the right dog and the right trainer,
and be willing to make that tough call.
Yep.
As you have to.
100%.
Yep. You heard this. We'll go this last part. I have two pieces till the end. One is like we heard we talk about it when you came and listened to the lecture. Is the integration of the canine asset within other specialized units, meaning like SWAT, EOD, things like that. You come from SWAT. You did it for how many years? 20?
19 years.
Yeah, 19 years. So you understand when it's a tactical unit, a tactical unit has different tools that need to be done for the job. Yeah. What is your opinion on how do we get and to do it right? Because what we never want to do is use this tool all of a sudden now on the real call, but yet make sure that we're integrating it. How have you guys looked at that? I'll give it SWAT first, and then we'll go to the EOD part because that's separate from you guys a little bit. So how have you guys looked at it? Integrating a dog, because I'll give you the example, obviously, when there's a mass shooting, usually once we know who the shooter is, the next thing is where they live, where they come from. Then we're going to go execute search warrants over there, and in some of these cases, in many of these cases, these active shooters have had their residences rigged with either explosives or booby traps. The dog, all of a sudden, especially a bomb dog, in this case, we'll just go the bomb dog route, some of these bomb and patrol, now we have to potentially utilize this dog to clear up a way so that way we can even potentially figure out how we're going to make entry and make decisions on this location. How have you guys looked at it, or have you guys looked at it in integrating dog into that specialized unit?
So it started for us like at Pulse, when we had a mass shooting at Pulse, and there were some vehicles out front right around the building that needed to be cleared. And it was very apparent to me, because we really don't, I was a dog handler and a team leader. I didn't use my dog for SWAT.
Yep.
I left him home when we had SWAT
Yeah.
days. We really didn't integrate him into there. But then it was sort of weird because we had to clear all these cars, and they were all just sitting right along with Pulse, and we still had the bad guy inside holding hostages and all that kind of stuff. But we wanted to clear the cars so we could move up. So it was very evident when we did that piece that when a dog went up to clear, he had to have SWAT guys covering. It was very obvious that the dog was paying way more attention to the
Because if I'm not mistaken, that was an airport dog hill you guys had to call out, right?
Airport dog came out paying way more attention to the cover team.
They'd never seen it before.
They'd never seen it before. Even our guys that were pulled away to do that work, they're like, their dogs are very interested in people who are dressed up in suits. They're like, okay, they're wearing a lot of stuff. Maybe it's a bite suit, maybe it's not. Maybe it's interesting to me. Does he want me to bite him? What's going on here? So starting from there, we're like, okay, we need to do a little bit more integration. We did a little bit, and it didn't really go very well because, as you can imagine, it takes a special kind of dog to go weaving in and out of operators and not be like, oh, let me go bite an operator. Let's see what's going on here. So we, even to this day, we really haven't mastered it. And even when we go out and do manhunts where we're doing that, SWAT guys are cover, and they usually give a lot of distance. So to me, I've always wanted to figure out a better way to integrate. And I think now that we have a full-time SWAT, now's the time to really look at, and I've tasked the SWAT commander with really looking at how we can integrate, because there are dog handlers inside SWAT. So I mean, you have the dogs, but are the dogs the right personality? Because they weren't brought here to do SWAT 100%.
Stuff. That's the key right there. That you just said it, and this is just my experience coming from the SEAL team side of it. Was we had to pick totally different dogs, and even within that community, they started off with one type of dogs, realized, oh wait, we need to change that now and go for this type of dog. And I look at what you guys have as even more flexibility. I know your trainer actually has a single purpose bomb dog. That would be the first one, because that dog really won't give a crap initially about the guys in kit, and knowing that it looks like a bite suit potentially for some dogs. But at the same time, to your point, we also have to have that patrol dog, because there's going to be the functions where we don't know if the person's live, dead, whatever. We need to have the dog go up, clear up, so that way we have the best tactical advantage to make good decisions. You know, we have some things, technology now, that helps some of that too, but the dog still brings a tool. And the lessons I've learned is I don't want anybody to have to learn that in the call.
Exactly.
And can we do this to a point, and like you're saying, as this maybe gets pushed out, we're going to figure it out, and we'll know who our top dogs are for these kinds of missions as they come up, but integrate that training more often so that happens. And then to me, that includes the EOD part. And then for you guys, your EOD is attached to your fire department. Is that correct?
They are fire department. We also have a breaching unit inside of SWAT. So we do have EOD guys trained in SWAT, and they have the tools to deal with those kind of situations where somebody may be rigged inside. Like if he thinks explosives are in there with a bad guy, they will be dealing with that right as we go. We do have the dog component, but now it was sort of funny how I paid like $500,000 for this robot dog, which is amazing to me. And it's like, we use that dog nonstop.
Yes.
Every search warrant, that dog goes in first. I mean, we have the robots, we have the drones, we have all that kind of stuff. But this robot dog has been the thing. He just walks around the house, looking at everybody, seeing everything, camera, you're seeing everything in there. Once the door goes, he's in there all the time. And I see the dedication there, and the guy's like, oh, we got this. I go, that's nice, but at some point, real dogs, what we have to do, have to be integrated into this, because they keep going back, oh, robot dog. I'm like, a robot dog's nice, and a robot dog moves. We watch it go to every search warrant we go to, and every barricade. After we finish the barricade, the dog goes in there, he looks for the bad guy, and the bad guy's looking at him, and one guy picked the robot dog up through the robot dog, and was like, what else you got?
What are we going to do now?
So it's like entertaining. But real dogs are still, and that's why the military uses them. Everybody uses real dogs. You got to have real dogs in there. So we do look at the integration part. It's very slow coming. It'll probably come a little bit more now that we have a full-time SWAT unit to integrate it there. And it's picking and choosing the right missions. The first mission I see, in the mission that I've been most involved with, were manhunts, where it's like, this is a bad guy. The one guy, he shot 2 cops. We are hunting him. And you see it because you'll see the dog push forward, wave forward, and then the SWAT team's behind the guy, fanned out, and they're in there.
The Polk County one years ago, remember that?
I was at that one. And we used dogs, and it was just amazing to watch the dogs. They're like, why is the dog so far ahead? Because really, the dog wouldn't stop paying attention to us. He was like, and it's a lot going on behind him. You've got 12 guys in a V behind him, and the dog's like, what are they doing? What are they doing? What's going on here? This isn't usual.
You got it, because they'd never been exposed to that stuff before. And you brought up a point that I learned over the past, I'd say about 5 years or so, because of the technology being integrated. We had to really get dogs used to the robot dog. There was an initial conflict, because that dog's like, what kind of weird dog is that? And once specialized units started integrating the two together, or the drone working over the dog, all those kind of things, first we fleshed out the dogs that didn't work. Okay, cool, we don't have to waste time on them anymore. All right, these dogs have some good potential. We got to start doing that. And then, again, back into it has to be integrated to a schedule. Once a month, once every 2 months, 60 days, whatever it is, there needs to be that integration so we can flesh some stuff out, make sure it's still functioning properly, and if we have a major deficiency, what's our plan of attack to fix that? And that has been, when you get there and it's smooth, that's the best thing.
Yeah.
And when there's, because what sucks is when it runs smooth, it doesn't get talked about that much. But when there's an issue, we hear about it for years afterwards.
Most definitely.
So but that's what I want. Like I try to tell the teams, look, get in there because be that silent warrior, silent professional. I don't need all the accolades, but I just need it to work. And if it works and we don't hear anything about it, great. Because when it doesn't work, we're all going to hear about it. So let's avoid that conversation as much as possible by the training. The EOD side of it, which I see needs to happen for a lot of units, is those EOD guys know everything about the explosives, where the handlers they read their dog and that's about it. And some of the failures I see are stuff the handler could have seen and doesn't even get the dog near it. Because that'll save your life. Because I try to tell them, you're both a detection device. Your dog is there, but you should be looking around too. And I need you to be able to communicate when you get an indication for whatever happens. Go back out and tell the EOD commander or the staff, this is where I was at, this is how I got there, this is what's in front, behind, above, below, left, and right. And this is what I saw in the environment. Because just being aware of enough, but like I asked a lot of handlers, do you guys get that education? They're like, no. I'm like, but why not? You have a resource at your disposal, either within your own agency or the neighboring agency who's in charge of the bomb squad or whatever. We both know this. Bomb techs look for any reason to make shit blow up.
Oh, yeah.
And if they can have the opportunity to work with somebody so they can make something, then go blow it up later, they'll love doing that stuff. But by doing that, gives those handlers that education that they need, so that way they're better off when that Pulse nightclub shooting happens and that handler's working around, oh shit, I see something, bring the dog back, hey, this is what we got, we're doing our job.
100%.
Because I look at that, and I know you do too, when we have that failure, that falls back on me. If I'm high enough up, what did I not do to make sure those teams are ready? And if I do, I'm going to make sure I fix it now. And you guys have had, the city obviously itself had a lot of lessons learned over the years from instances that have occurred, and some things get worked on, some things get talked about, and then just die on the vine later on because, like you said, between you and the boots on the ground, somewhere in here it just kind of filters out and it dies. So I look at it as it's back to that dogs and other units thing. There's not a perfect answer, but there's definitely, we have to integrate better and get that communication at least going. Yeah. The constant education and training and pushing ourselves. Because we both know this. When we can make time. There's always ways to make time. Oh, yeah. It's like the workout thing. My fat ass is like, well, I have tomorrow I'll go do that. I'm busy today. I've got these morning briefings and all that kind of stuff. I know my ass can get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go find the time to go get it done. So you can if you do it, and that's the point I try to.
I think it starts with, like for me, it's going to start with mandatory hours.
Yeah.
These are, you will do 4 hours a week. And just an example. Maybe it's 4, maybe it's 6, maybe it's 2. It's me talking to the trainer and saying, what do you need from each handler to keep them proficient? He may say 2, he may say 4, he may say 6. He may say 1 full day. But it's me talking to him and say, okay, whatever you're going to say, whatever you tell me, and you'll tell me the reason, and I'll say, okay, cool. That's policy, and it'll be put in policy, put out to the handlers. You're one of us. You've got to go back there for 4 hours, 6 hours, whatever it is.
And that protects that supervisor who's not sure what to do.
Yeah. Now he's like, well, I was told 4 hours. Go away. We'll work without you. Which they will do, because it's like, okay, you're in a 12-man unit. Okay, a 12-man unit. Usually 9 people come to work. 3 people are off every day.
Exactly.
That's just the way it is. We've got people have vacation time. They're off. Okay, you're off. We can make it work with 9. Usually there's an odd number. Okay, cool. And then and then also you take away the stress of them getting stats. Okay, I'm not holding to the same standards. Yeah, it's nice if you make 1 or 2 arrests a week. Whatever, cool. That's whatever. Anybody can do that. But I'm not gonna sit there and be like, okay, the guy who's leading the unit makes 7 arrests a week. I don't need you making 6 arrests or 7 arrests trying to compete with him. No, you're a dog handler. You're to support those guys getting their stats and getting their stuff. And if you get trash with making your little 1 arrest, okay, cool, that's nice.
Exactly.
That's gravy,
Yep. Last part I'll hit is community integration or community aspects with dogs. We know dogs are a great bridge to have that. How do you guys see it? How do you guys manage the getting community support? And the reason I bring this up is I told the handlers this. You remember this too. It's always hard to get training areas, right? Or we end up with the same 5 or 6.
Yeah.
So the dogs know those areas and they game the hell out of it. Some dogs even know when they get there, where they're at. And I said, we already know that the dogs are a great community bridge. Why aren't you using social media to reach out to your community and say, hey, our canine unit would love to train in your areas. How many people would reach out to us? And I gave them an example of an agency that did that. They had more training areas than they could shake a stick at. Some were not even thought possible, but they're like, no, we would love to have you guys there. Social media these days and the old school way of doing the old demos and things like that, how do you see, or what would you like to see in your canine to continue to connect to the community, but do so in a way that's also, we have bite dogs, we have to be careful with certain things, but what would you do, or what do you think that could be good things for community integration or support the dog program that's a bigger picture of support of law enforcement in general?
So social media wise, I mean, we're a big agency, so we put out social media on a daily basis. And I always look at, okay, how many hits did we get? How many people like this? How many people didn't like it? I read comments, which a lot of people are like, you're crazy to read comments. I'm like, it's entertainment for me. So I read comments. And anytime we post anything to do with a dog, whether it's catching a bad guy, whether it's just a dog interacting with the community, going to a school, doing whatever they're doing, going to one of our events, that's the biggest hit of the day.
Yeah.
Everybody loves to see the dogs. They love to see the handlers. People just love animals. So I think what we do is, I've sort of changed the way we do it. I've sort of pushed a lot of it on the single-purpose dogs. That's why if you look at my single-purpose dogs, they do look like full-service dogs. They're Malleys or whatever they are. And so but they're not trained in bite work, of course. So it's just like, they're actually great to go out with the community. For little kids always worried me, even as a dog handler, because little kids do the unexpected.
100%.
I'm sitting back there, and I remember being in elementary school, and I'm watching the kids, and they're playing around the dog's private parts. And I'm like, because I'm talking, and I've got 20 kids around me, and he's got a Kong in his mouth, and I see the kids back here, and the kids are all around me, and I'm just like, oh, he's nice, Scout. I got to always keep something in his mouth, because I know that once he drops, he's got to spit what's in his mouth first to bite the hell out of somebody.
Exactly. So you got a couple seconds.
So I'm like, I got a couple seconds. I see the kids on his back end and they're laughing, and I'm like, oh, they're just playing with his tail, whatever. They're slapping his tail, whatever. He ain't responding. I really don't care. But I realized that one kid was like up under there grabbing his privates,
testicles,
and then I'm just like, he spits the Kong and he starts to turn his head, and I just grab his head, and he actually bites me. Because he's just like biting through me to get back here, because I got in his way, and I'm like, so I pick him up, I'm like, slam him. I'm like, okay, we're good, we're done. And it's just like, community things are great, but know your dog, watch your dog, and that was a lesson for me. What was the lesson? Okay, everybody stay about 5 feet away from me and look at the dog. And then you can come here one at a time, and I was very direct. Pet his head. Because he was cool with kids. He loved kids. He was like, oh, pet his head, he's fine. But, kids are just kids. They're like, oh, what's this under here? What's this under here? Because, our dogs are fixed. So they're like, oh, what's this? Most dogs don't have all that stuff. So, kids are inquisitive, especially little kids. And it's just, you have to control the situation. But people love dogs. They love dogs. So, that's why the airport dogs have things on. Don't pet me. I'm not a pet. Leave me alone, basically. And I like using the bite dogs, and we really haven't had an issue yet where a full service dog is eating somebody on one of these things, which is good. But I'm also looking at the big picture as the agency head. So when I can use the non-bite dogs, the single purpose dogs, that's a lot better for me. So I'm like, okay, there's no liability here. These guys are in community units that have dogs. I don't use my drug dogs, my drug unit dogs, just because of what the officers are. I use my bike officers who have dogs and be like, hey, you guys want overtime? We always want overtime. Do these demos, knock them out, go to schools, show your dog off, do all this kind of stuff. And they want to be canine, so they're eager to help. They want to show it. They want to be out there with it, And the one thing I do is some people make requests for certain dogs. Hey, we met this cop. Can we have her? Or can we have him? I give it to the sergeant. The sergeant and trainer know which dogs are good for kids. The age groups. I got high school kids. He won't mess with them, but he's not really good with elementary kids. Okay, you know that about your, handler 2 is not good to go to elementary schools. Okay, so use handler 3, or not all dogs are personable. Okay, then give it back to the single purpose dogs. They'll take care of it. Know what you're sending out there in your community. And I think that's very important. And I didn't even think about the idea of getting more training sites, because it seems like, I mean, we have some training sites, but you can always use more training sites. And reaching out to the community is a good way of doing that. Especially, instead of just putting on social media just because I know it'd be a mess, but targeting certain businesses, targeting our Universal Studios and our bigger businesses that have a whole lot of property. Say, hey, you've got 100 warehouses. Can we use some of these warehouses to train? Sure, man, whatever, we don't care. It's just getting those, because most people like having police officers on their property during certain times of day, night, whenever it is. And, when people aren't around, we'll go there, we'll train, and it's a good new environment, because that's the one thing I do know. I used to see my dog get all excited every time we went to the Kia Center, which is the basketball arena the Magic play with. He goes, and part of it, at first I thought, because this is where we do our bomb searches, and he just goes around, we do his bomb search, but I realized he was pulling me right to the back, because we always train in the back. He's like, oh yeah, I know this game. I'm getting Kong, so let's go back to the back. So I'm going to pull you right to the back of this place. I'm like, yeah, he done figured out this game. This is not a good place to train at all the time.
It's Disney World for him there.
Yeah. He's like, I know I'm going to get an award. I know it's in one of these probably 10 spots. So let's go to 10 spots. And I noticed he would start skipping areas. He was like, okay, you always put it in this cabinet that's back here. So I'm going to skip all this BS over here and go. And he would just jerk me right to the cabinet. I was like, oh, and 90% of the time he's right, because as people who put out decoys, or put out the hides, we get lazy. We get lazy, and it's like, oh, it's a cabinet. The cabinet's always a good place to put something.
It's so funny you're saying that, because I'm laughing so hard. The two things the handlers have learned this past 2 days, their dogs love cabinets and lockers.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what I said. I said, you guys got to stop doing cabinets, stop doing lockers, because that's all. Their dogs would sell them all day long, because it's exactly what you just said. We go to this, yesterday we were at Camping World, and we were at the soccer stadium area, and those dogs, exactly what you just said, dragged them right to the lockers, cabinets, crushed it, and there's nothing there. They're like, and the handlers, that was the struggle, was the ability to read the dog at that point, because the dog is showing a lot of things, but the dog's like, I know this area, or I know this context has a lot of value to me. And I'm like, that shows you guys, you got to start thinking outside the box and start looking at new areas. And that's how the conversation came up. But I said, community loves you guys. Community loves it. Here's the example I have. We had agency, in this case it was in Los Angeles, big agency that said, hey, we're looking for areas. And the cool thing that was the product, like you said, some other areas are unique, but the part that really helped was realtors going, we have these houses here that have been abandoned, that we're cool with you guys training in them. And it gave realism to, because search warrants, all the different things they have to go do. And then the bridge happened, and in return, and you guys are kind of already do this, they would give them certificates of appreciation or things like that.
Exactly.
And it just helped, because then it wasn't just the agency, it reflected on the city as a whole. And there was risk to this, like we talked about, like, hey guys, you have to respect the areas that you're given, because as good as this is, it can turn on you if you leave dog crap in the yards, or you're knocking holes in walls and things like that. So I told them, like, you have to look at it in an area as, maybe this is a detection area only, and maybe this is a patrol area. And you have to use common sense, be reasonable about it, be smart about it, but utilize what you got, which is you're already connected to the community a certain way, and now because of social media, you have another unique opportunity to kind of foster relationships. Because like we know, I mean, tragedy could happen because of the connection to the community. You've seen this already. The community will support it too. Like, the dog got hurt or this happened, what do you guys need?
Oh, of course.
Vet bills paid for, dog, car, whatever happens.
People want to sponsor dogs, it's all over.
Yeah, right. So how would you, to end this, what legacy in your position do you want to kind of leave with, whenever your time comes to an end? How do you want to leave, in this sense, the canine community, because you came from it, as what's your fingerprint left?
So I want to have a large canine unit, because I see value in canines. I mean, some agencies have gotten away from them. Some agencies are like, oh, it's too much liability. I want to have a large canine unit that's very productive and is one of the top-notch trained units in our country. And the reason for that is because I believe in canine. I believe in the job that they do. I believe in the value that they bring to an agency. I believe in how they protect officers day in and day out. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, that's, 1970 thinking, 1980 thinking. I don't see it at all. I mean, the dog knows you can't beat, even though like we have robot dogs and we have all this crazy stuff at this agency and drones and robots. It's like, you can't beat what a dog brings to the table. You can't beat his response for finding a bad guy. You can't beat him being able to take down a bad guy. You can't beat when we have all these huge events and bowl games and the Pro Bowl and all these things that we have here in NBA basketball games. You can't beat a real dog looking for bombs. You can't beat in the high crime areas we have a dog searching a car and finding drugs, which leads you to guns. It's just all these things are done by an animal and a canine team. It's a handler and a dog working together, and the more of those you have, the better for an agency. I mean, if I could have 50 dog teams, I would, because I believe that they're a force multiplier, and what they bring to the table saves lives of people in our community and our officers. And that's the one thing I want to do, and that's one thing I've grown quickly. Is we didn't have dogs at the airport. We didn't have dogs in bike units. We didn't have a dog in the drug unit. We had pulled all those things back, and we had scaled back Canine before it took over. I brought it back up, and I want to keep going with that, with what Canine is, because I believe what it is. The one thing I also did, I don't restrict strict breeds. I don't restrict kinds of dogs. So I'm like, smart. I don't care if a dog's a male or female. I mean, when I first got here, they're like calling me like, hey, there's this female, she's the best dog, but we know she's a female, and we don't think you're gonna like having a female. Bro, just if it's the best dog for the job, what is the mission? I mean, it's a single-purpose dog,
right?
It's a full-service dog. I don't care. If the guy is telling you, and a vendor that you trust is telling you this is the best dog they have, and you put it through your test as a trainer, and see this is the best dog that they have, take the best dog they have.
Yes.
I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's a Mallee, it's a mixed breed. I don't care if it's a Shepherd. I don't care if it's a Dutchie. I don't care what it is. As long as it's the best dog available, take the dog. As long as the handler can control the dog. Now, that's where I always get into certified versus non-certified and all these different kind of dogs out there. I mean, I'm like, if you think the handler can handle the dog, get the dog. I really don't care. I'm not going to sit here and penny pick over pricing and all that kind of stuff. If the dog's what we need, get the dog.
Knowing that, I want to make sure you guys get a couple spaniels in your unit before too long.
Oh, yeah. Bring them on. Entertainment value.
Exactly. Chief, thank you very much for doing this. Taking your time.
Very happy to do it.
Really appreciate it. And I think it's so important that handler in this community that I have with the podcast, things like it's been 7 years now. It's been heavy, obviously, handlers. So having somebody of your background in your position to take the time to do this, I can't thank you enough for doing that. So I really appreciate it.
Happy to do it anytime.
All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Canine's Talking Sense, where it's okay to be nosy.